This is exactly what barbecue is supposed to be. Beautiful summer day, family and friends over there on the deck, and a cooler full of beer. Well, today on my Back to the Basics barbecue series, we are going to be doing BBQ Chicken Thighs. One of my favorite, one of the cheapest, and one of the easiest things that you can do in your backyard this summer. It's so easy, I'm wearing my Crocs. I'm gonna show you how to prepare the chicken. I'm gonna show you how to get the kettle grill started, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to make some banging barbecue chicken thighs. Now let's get started. When it comes to backyard barbecue basics, there is nothing more nostalgic than a charcoal kettle grill. So that is what we're gonna be using today, and that's what we're gonna be using in this Back to the Basics barbecue series this summer. Now, one of the most controversial things that people are gonna talk about when it comes to charcoal grills, that is charcoal. I'm not gonna go into a ton of detail right now. I did that in the previous video, but when it comes to charcoal grilling, one thing that I do most often is use briquette charcoal. When I purchase a bag of briquette charcoal, it's the most consistent, and that is really what I'm going for. When it comes to flavor, I can add in a little bit of wood, but honestly, these Kingsford professional briquettes do the job, and they do the job wonderfully. So that's what we're gonna be using today. When it comes to lighting the charcoal, there is nothing easier than using a chimney starter. We're gonna load this thing up with charcoal, put a few tumbleweed starters underneath, and it's gonna get the job done. In about 10 minutes or so, your charcoal is hot and ready, and it is super easy to do. So let's go ahead and do it. Now, when it comes to lighting the charcoal, these tumbleweed starters are nice. There's no petroleum products. We're not using any lighter fluid or anything of that nature. Set this down right on the grill grate. We're gonna set this right over top of it. We're gonna fill the chimney full of charcoal. And I'll use my torch lighter here to get this tumbleweed fire starter going. And we just set this right on top, just like so. Now, I mentioned about petroleum products. When I am cooking with charcoal or a live fire of any kind, we never use lighter fluid. We never use matchlit charcoal. A chimney starter is the most effective way to do so without using any of those harsh petroleum products, because we really don't want that stuff in our food. You can see this is starting to smoke. We're gonna give it about 10 minutes. I'll show you how to tell when your charcoal is ready, but let's go get the chicken prepared. Like I said, when it comes to backyard barbecue, there is nothing simpler and cheaper than some bone-in chicken thighs. Today, that's what we're gonna be cooking. I marinated these a couple hours in advance in cheap Italian dressing that I got from the grocery store. I used about 2 bottles in this bag, and I got about 15 or 16 chicken thighs to go with it. When it comes to marinating this, you wanna give it at least 2 to 4 hours or so. That's gonna help soak in that chicken and give you that extra good flavor. Now, we're not trimming for competition here, so we are looking for chicken thighs that have what I like to call hangers. That one looks pretty good, but I can see one right here. This one right here, look at that skin hanging off. Got chunks of meat hanging off, flesh hanging off. We wanna take that, we wanna square that up and just set that skin off to the side. Things like that, especially on a charcoal grill, are gonna get stuck down in the grates. They're gonna burn, and it's not gonna make for a great experience. So I like to keep those trimmed. In general, looking at that one, looks good. We're gonna go ahead and continue going through here. Look, there's another one with some hangers. Trim this up. Got another one. You guys get the picture. Let me finish these up, then I'm gonna show you how we're gonna season them. Now it's time to season them up. You can see I've got the chicken thighs laid out on the back side. We're gonna be using the Camp Chef Something Southern today. And I laid them nice and tight so that I'm not wasting a lot. If I go over, it's just right onto the next one. Get a nice coating on there. For chicken thighs, I like to use something a little on the sweet and savory side, and this rub here, Something Southern, is a perfect blend of that. Now, I didn't pat these dry. You know, we're gonna be cooking these over some heat today, and we've still got a lot of that Italian dressing on. Now, I'm gonna turn all of these over right in place. We're gonna hit it again with this Something Southern. Give these chicken thighs a moment here to sweat. We'll get them over to the grill. Now the charcoal is starting to ash, as you can see here, and it is time to get it down into the slow and sear. I'm gonna go ahead and pour that down in here. Spread it out evenly. Now for this cook, I wanna add a little bit of extra smoke, so I'm gonna throw a piece of hickory off to the side, just on a little bit of the bed of coals. We're gonna get the grate back on this, and we wanna get this at about the 350 to 375 degrees. I'm gonna show you how to do it. Get the lid on it here. And I wanna keep this thermometer on the back side where the meat's going to be, away from the coals. But to show you here, we're gonna adjust the air intake here. And right now it's gonna be super hot because we just put that in. We're gonna set this at about a quarter of the way so that this fire can start to choke down. The vent on the bottom is completely open. We're gonna do our best to control the heat from right here on top. Now I'm gonna spin this back towards the cool side of the grill because this is the temperature that we're monitoring. By putting it right above the coals, we're not gonna get an accurate reading. We're gonna let this temperature come down and settle at about 350 to 375 degrees, then we're gonna get this chicken on. We got this grill running at about 350 degrees. We've got these chicken thighs seasoned and ready to go. Now we're gonna set these away from the coals, indirect heat, and we're gonna do our best to get all of these in here and give them a little bit of space. Now there is a lot of chicken on this grill. In fact, this is about the max. We could have done without maybe 1 or 2 of these just to spread them out a little bit more. But we want this thing running at about 350 to 375 degrees. That's what we were before we put this chicken on. We're gonna monitor this. We want this indirect heat. We may move them around a little bit, but we're also gonna use the coals a little bit later in the cook. We'll check in then. As you can see, these barbecue chicken thighs are looking great. Great color. Temperature's reading about 165. When these hit about 170, 175, we're gonna be hitting them with some barbecue sauce and getting that caked on. When it comes to chicken thighs, we're looking for about 185 degrees internal temperature. Now you're thinking, wait, chicken's 165. That's for white meat. For dark meat, we want to push that further. It's going to make it more tender and juicier. And honestly, we could go 185, 190 if we wanted to. Get yourself a good instant read thermometer. Check the temperatures here. We got about 172, got about 178. I checked all of these. We're all running about the same. Now it's time to sauce them. Today I'm using some of my favorite barbecue sauce. It's some Sticky Fingers Carolina Sweet. Got it here in a bowl with my silicone brush, and I'm gonna start brushing that onto these chicken thighs. I wanna be a little generous with it, but we will have the opportunity to coat them a few different times. Dang, do those look good. Now that I've got them sauced, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna spin these above the coals like this, and I'm gonna start flipping them. Give them a little bit of time over those direct heat. That's the nice thing about using a slow and sear or about putting all your coals on one side of the grill. It's gonna help us caramelize that sauce a little bit. It's gonna help finish them a little nicely. All right, now that we got them like that, I'm gonna slowly turn them, get them back over to the indirect heat side. We're gonna sauce up this side. Start flipping these over. We'll give this just a little spin over the coals. I'm not gonna give it too much time. We don't want that sauce to burn. Just gonna put a little bit more on these. We're gonna check the temperature here. We'll get the lid on for just a few moments. We'll let this get up to the final temperature of about 185 degrees and they will be done. Now it looks like some of these chicken thighs are done. Nice thing about the thermometer is we're gonna check them. Whichever ones are done, we're gonna get off. Whichever one needs a little bit more time, we're gonna leave those on. Let's get started. Done, 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 done. All right, we'll just start with these, get these off first. Like I said, we're looking for that like 185 to 190. Needs a little bit more time. Needs a few more minutes. This one is done. No sense in boring you with taking chicken thighs off the grill. We showed you the idea. It's time to shut this thing down. We're gonna close this vent all the way. I'm gonna come over here, close this vent. What that's gonna do is choke out the fire, and over some time, it's going to basically choke it down to nothing, but it's gonna take hours for this thing to cool down. So be sure to leave it in a place where it's safe, no one's gonna touch it, and also make sure that you keep it away from any structures. We're gonna let these chicken thighs cool for a few minutes. We're gonna give them a try. Now, as you could see, these barbecue chicken thighs were super simple, and doing it on that charcoal grill makes for an awesome experience and honestly pretty trouble-free. Running that thing consistently at about 350 degrees, it didn't take us any longer than an hour, and that was prep and moving things around and everything. Now tell me, how good does that chicken thigh look? But none of this work means anything until we give it a try. Now, running these to 185 should produce a nice, juicy, tender bite. Let's find out how we did. Now, one thing I can tell you about these chicken thighs is the first bite, I noticed that charcoal, that smokiness that we get from running it on a kettle grill. The second thing that I notice, flavor-wise, is going to be that Italian dressing. That makes for a good base of flavor. Now, that Carolina sweet barbecue sauce paired really well with that, and the zestiness of the Italian dressing gives it a little zing, and it calms it down with the sweetness of that barbecue sauce. These are super tender and super delicious. If you're looking for more of this Back to the Basics barbecue series, we're gonna be doing a ton of cooks on the SNS kettle. It's all gonna be live fire, all gonna be controlling temperature, all charcoal on the kettle this entire series all summer. It's gonna be awesome. Now, these chicken thighs were great, and so is this video right here.